Share screen. Camera on the screen, entire screen. Great. Thanks. Full screen. Okay, great. So, good afternoon, everyone. We are here for the PhD thesis defense of Nicholas Afxentiou. Nicholas, he's with us since 2019. He started his PhD in 2021. The fact is that Nicholas worked on several topics during his presence with the group. But at some point, the decision for Nicholas was to focus on the smart readiness indicator of buildings. He did some great job. He developed and delivered his own tool on the topic with the support of the other members of UFIA Tech. Nicholas Paraskakis and Ryan here today with him. They had a major contribution supporting him to finalize the tool. And he also implemented this tool for several case studies that he will present today. I'm very proud for Nicholas' work. Nicholas, I'm very proud for you. And you have the floor now, 40 minutes to present your work. The committee consists of Mr. Associate Professor Gregoris Kalnis with the Department of Architecture, our colleague Associate Professor Michalis Menicou with the Mechanical Engineering Department. And we also have two external colleagues. I'm starting with the lady, Professor Efrosyni Giama from Gregoris University, and a very good friend of the group and a very good academic, Professor Rokas Valansius from Kaunas University of Technology. So, Nicola, you have now 40 minutes to present your work, and some questions will follow.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Good afternoon, respected committee members, colleagues, and guests. My name is Nicholas Afxentiou, and I'm honored to present the outcome of my thesis entitled Enhancing Building Intelligence in Europe, Smart Readiness Indicator, Implementation and Optimization. Here is an overview of today's presentation. I will begin with a short introduction for Smart Readiness Indicator scheme and the key objectives of this study. Then I will explain the methodology covering the tools and technologies I employed and the process of investigating the SRI. Next, I will walk you through the resultant discussion, highlighting the development of Smart Readiness tool and presenting the key findings. Finally, I will summarize the key findings and suggest possible directions for future work. Let's start by looking at what makes a building smart. A smart building can sense things like temperature or occupancy, understanding what's happening, share that information, and react automatically. This helps the building run more efficiently, responds to people's needs, and adjust to changes in the environment. In short, smart buildings aim to save energy, increase comfort, and support a more flexible energy system. Using smart technologies in buildings helps reduce energy use and store green energy. This can lower emissions, create healthier indoor spaces, and improve comfort. Smart systems can control heating, cooling, lights, and even how the building connects to the energy grid, all in a more efficient and cost-effective way. The Smart Readiness Indicator, or SRI, was introduced by the European Commission in 2018 as part of new energy efficiency rules for buildings. It measures how smart a building is. The SRI is expressed as a percentage from 0% to 100%. A higher score means the building is more intelligent, energy efficient, and responsive to its environment. The indicator was developed using European standards to help both experts and the public to understand the benefits of smart buildings. Its main goal is to raise awareness and encourage investment in smart technologies and support innovation in the building sector. After establishing the meaning of SRI, let's now look at how it works. First, optimizing energy efficiency through occupancy sensors, fault detection, and PV optimization. Second, adapting to occupant needs, including air quality sensors and user feedback systems. And finally, responding to grid signals by adjusting EV charging, HVAC, and hot water system based on real-time energy demand. These core functionalities are evaluated through 7 impact criteria that reflect the benefits of the smart services. Energy-related impacts include energy efficiency, maintenance and fault prediction. Occupant-focused impacts cover comfort, convenience, health, well-being, and accessibility, and information for occupants. Lastly, the final group, energy flexibility and storage, measures a building's ability to respond to grid needs through adaptive energy use. The methodology for calculating the SRI is based on assessing the smart ready services implemented in a building. These services are categorized into 9 technical domains: heating, cooling, domestic hot water, ventilation, lighting, dynamic building envelope, electricity, electric vehicle charging, and monitoring and control. Now, the SRI calculation is based on the functionality levels of each smart service within a given domain. These levels range from functionality level 0, indicating no smart capability, to functionality level 4, which represents the highest level of smart functionality. Each service contributes differently to the criteria. To ensure balanced results, weighting factors are applied, allowing the individual scores of all services to be aggregated into a single SRI value and corresponding SRI class. A total of 5 climate zones are defined within the SRI framework, each used to apply region-specific weighting factors based on local climatic conditions. These weighting factors influence the importance of each technical domain and impact criteria in the final SRI score. This table shows the domain and impact weightings applied for the Northern Europe. And for example, in this zone, heating and energy flexibility have higher weightings due to the colder weather. Cooling has very low or zero impact as it is less relevant. This is an example of what the results looks like. The building receives an overall smart readiness score of 52% with class D. The 3 core functionalities are scored differently. On the right, a detailed matrix shows how different technical domains perform across the 7 impact criteria. For example, the domestic hot water systems achieves higher high marks across all the areas, while ventilation and monitoring score lower. This type of breakdown helps identify both strengths and areas for improvement, guiding decisions on where smart technologies could be most efficiently upgraded. SRI can be assessed using 3 different methods depending on the building type, available data, and required level of detail. Method A is the simplified method based on a checklist of a limited number of services. It can be conducted either through online self-assessment by the building user. This approach is suitable for residential buildings and small commercial buildings, and typically takes up to 1 hour. Method B is the expert SRI assessment method, which covers the full catalog of smart ready services. It requires a more in-depth evaluation carried out either online or on-site by a certified technical expert. Method C focuses on in-use smart building performance, relying on measured data collected over time. Usually takes more than a year. To demonstrate how the SRI framework is applied in real cases, this video walks you through a practical example using the EU Excel SRI tool. In the first tab, where it's building information, the user has the option to insert the required data for methodology selection, building information, the domains are present, and then goes into the calculation tab where all domains and related smart services are shown. And of course, the user has to import the functionality level of each smart service. Of course, in the results tab, we have the indicator, the corresponding class, the impact and domain scores, the TILS scores with the matrix, and the aggregated scores. Also, for each domain, there are available all the information for impacts and the weighting factors for each smart service. Following the demonstration of the SRI tool, it's important to examine how the concept has evolved from experimental ideas to a legal scheme. This timeline shows the evolution of the SRI from an experimental concept to a legally recognized assessment scheme. Between 2017 to 2020, the focus was on the methodology development. The period 2021 to 2024 marks the experimental phase during which member states conducted pilot activities and test implementations, often supported by EU-live projects. These trials helped evaluate the feasibility and improve the indicator, the SRI. From 2025 onward, the SRI enters the implementation phase. It will become mandatory for large commercial buildings, marking a significant shift for voluntary testing to a regulatory enforcement across the EU. This map outlines the current status of SRI implementation across the EU member states. The level of progress varies, which some countries haven't completed the testing phase, while others are still engaged into pilot activities. Cyprus is actively involved in ongoing testing through EU-funded initiatives. These efforts support the adoption of the SRI methodology to a national context and provide valuable insights that contribute to the broader EU development process. After understanding how the SRI is applied in practice, it's important to examine how the topic has been addressed in academic research. Those figures present a bibliometric analysis conducted using bibliogeny package, an open source tool for science mapping. The chart on the left shows a steady increase in research activity over the years, with a significant peak in 2024, highlighting growing academic interest in the topic. The chart on the right illustrates the type of documents and the review articles published, with journal articles and the most common, followed by conference papers and review articles. This reflects a well-established and expanding body of knowledge supported by both original studies and critical evaluations. Moving forward, a co-occurrence network analysis conducted using VoceViewer to map key research themes and their relationships within the literature. The figure on the left focuses on terms like smart readiness indicator, energy efficiency, reflecting the technical and regulatory aspects of SRI-related studies. The figure on the right highlighting broader buildings-related terms. Keynotes such as application, assessment, and smart building show the emphasis on implementation, evaluation methods, and integration with smart technologies. Now, moving on the research gap and questions identified from the literature review. First, there is a lack of open source tools for SRI implementation. So question 1 asks, what are the key design and functional requirements for a web-based SRI tool aligned with the EU framework? Second, there is no data on smart readiness in Cyprus. So what are the current level of smart readiness in Cypriot building stock, and what can we learn from those data? And third, data collection remains a challenge. Can a simplified method like a call center be effective across EU countries? And what are the main challenges in terms of scalability, cost, and accuracy? These questions shape the direction of my research. Building on the gaps identified, this study sets out three main objectives. First, to develop a web-based tool that supports the implementation of the SRI, fully aligned with the EU framework. Second, to assess the smart readiness of buildings in Cyprus. And third, to explore a scalable approach for SRI assessment by testing an oversimplified method referred to as call center, developed for efficient data collection from a large number of buildings across 10 selected EU countries like Germany, France, Spain, Italy, etc. And these objectives aim to support both national and EU-wide efforts in implementing and scaling the SRI effectively. The methodology developed for this study focuses on the three key areas. Starting with the Smart Freiderikou tool, was developed using ASP.NET framework and follows the MVC model view controller architecture. It features a C# backend code, a responsive frontend with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and a database course for secure data management. Deployed on Microsoft Azure, the system ensures scalability and secure access. This diagram shows its core components, like the data models, calculation engine, the database course, and the authorization and authentication services. This figure illustrates a section of the backend code, especially the controller for this example is the dashboard, used to manage application logic and the database interaction with the database. This figure presents the main functionalities of the Smart Freiderikou tool with a homepage with short introduction about SRI, including some tutorials and the documentation. It supports the assessments with method A and B, the call center, the oversimplified method for calculating the SRI. It supports a dashboard where we can visualize the assessments across EU countries, the virtual training center platform for learning the smart learning things, and supports 24 EU languages for user education, ensuring accessibility and wide adoption. Regarding the methodology used to carry out the assessments across Cyprus, first, a diverse sample of 20 buildings differing in type, age, and location were selected. Then, the necessary building data for the SRI assessments were collected. The assessments were performed using Smart Freiderikou, and the results were reported following the guidelines of the CN Workshop Agreement for standardized on-site audits for SRI. The first step involved selecting a stratified sample of 20 buildings to ensure diversity in the case studies. The sample includes a range of building types of single-family houses, apartment buildings, units, passive house, office buildings, hotels, hospitals, varying in size and location across Cyprus. It also covers different periods of construction, from buildings constructed back to 60s to those built after 2010, along with one facility that has not yet been constructed. Method B was selected as the official approach for evaluating the SRI. On-site audits were conducted for each of the selected buildings to carry accurate and detailed information. As I mentioned, the calculation of the SRI for each building was carried out using the Smart Freiderikou tool. And for each building, a complete audit report was filled in following the templates and the structure set out in the CN Workshop Agreement. This is the first CN standard for SRI, aiming to standardize on-site assessments and ensure consistency and comparability across Europe. To conclude with the methodology section, this part outlines the approach used to investigate the SRI across Europe. The process began with the creation of a simplified assessment method, the SRI call center, developed to allow non-experts to complete evaluations online in under 10 minutes. Following that, 10 EU member states were selected for the data collection, and finally, all responses were processed using the Smart Freiderikou tool, producing SRI assessment reports and generating valuable analytical insights. The SRI call center questionnaire is structured as a 20-question checklist, and a related smart service is applied to each question. Let's take a look at some of the questions used. So after importing the building information data, question 1 asks, how is the heating system in your building currently controlled? In this case, the user is guided through multiple predefined options, ranging from basic to advanced functionality levels. Moving on to country selection, these are the 10 EU countries that were selected. The second column shows the number of assessments conducted with a total of 4,391 completed. Afterwards, figure 6 indicates the data processing workflow within the Smart Readiness tool. Once responses are collected through the assessment, they are automatically processed by the tool. The system calculates the SRI scores based on the predefined logic and maps them to the relevant impact categories. This enables consistent, accurate analysis and supports scalable reporting across multiple buildings and regions. The results and key insights are addressed in the following section. Provide a clearer understanding of how the Smart Readiness tool works in practice. The following video offers a demonstration with a welcome screen, the homepage with the documentation and the tutorials available, the assessment tab with the project database, with the creation of a new project, and of course edit the existing project. All buildings information data and assessor information data are available in this screen. The two methodologies here is the method B with the full catalog of the smart services, navigating through all the domains, and at the end, in the results page, we have the analytic report with the indicator, the aggregated scores, the detailed matrix, and of course, an option to export the results or send it via email. Here we have three available dashboards. All assessments completed under this tool is located in the general dashboard. The individual dashboard, whatever all the assessments carried out by your account is displayed, and the certified assessor's dashboard shows only the assessments conducted carried out by the expert. The following section presents the results of the SRI assessments conducted across Cyprus. Here is an overview of the 20 assessments conducted in Cyprus. The chart on the left shows that half of the buildings were rated in the lower class G, while only a quarter reached class E. The remaining buildings fall into classes F and D, with none achieving classes A to C. The figure on the right illustrates the aggregated scores, and with the last aggregated score of adapt to signals from the grid shows score below 13%, mainly due to the lack of smart grid infrastructure. Here's a deeper look at the average impacted domain scores. In the chart on the left, the highest impact score and achieved in the categories of comfort, energy efficiency. However, energy flexibility and storage is once again identified as the lowest performing impact category. In the figure on the right, stronger domain scores are observed in heating, cooling, and lighting, while electric vehicle charging is associated with a negative score due to uncontrolled charging. This matrix provides a detailed overview of the smart services implemented in one of the assessed residential buildings. Each row corresponds to a technical domain, such as heating or cooling, while each box represents a specific service. The colored cells indicate the level of functionality achieved from functionality level 0 to functionality level 4 using a gradient from light to dark green. This approach offers a new and visual way to present the SRI results. Similarly, this diagram demonstrates a detailed breakdown of smart services implemented in one of the assessed commercial buildings. The figure shows that commercial buildings demonstrated better performance, mainly due to the use of more advanced building management systems. Lastly, in this figure is displayed the average smartness level of each service based on the 20 assessments conducted. Heating, cooling, and electricity domains often reach functionality level 2 or 3, featuring room-level controls and energy monitoring. These services are more prevalent in newer buildings. Lighting systems show mixed results. Some newer buildings have smart features like automatic lighting and presence detection, while others still rely on manual controls. Ventilation services are more advanced in offices and public buildings, but older dwellings often lack of any smart ventilation features. For all 20 buildings representing the average building stock, the procedures described in CEN workshop agreement were fully implemented. Access to all results is provided via the QR code linked to the open source dataset hosted in Mendeley. After conducting detailed assessments on 20 buildings in the Cypriot building stock, over 500 additional assessments were carried out using call center to validate the initial results. Both datasets revealed a consistent trend of low smart readiness in the Cypriot residential building stock, regardless of the assessment method used. Higher SRI scores are closely linked to the presence of building management system and integrated control technologies in commercial buildings. As part of the methodology, the concept of typical buildings in Cyprus was defined and emphasized. A visualization was developed based on SRI assessments results to represent a typical building. The aim of this visualization is to help the general public better understand the smart readiness characteristics of a typical building in Cyprus. This also helps identify areas where smart readiness can be improved. Having presented the results from Cyprus, the focus now shifts to the broader European context. This section highlights the implementation and assessment of the SRI across the 10 EU member states. Those figures present key insights from SRI assessments conducted across Germany, Spain, Italy, Cyprus, Greece, Poland, Lithuania, etc., using the Smart Freiderikou tool. A total of 4,391 assessments were carried out. The charts display the average scores for domain and impact scores. A deeper look into the overall results of the SRI assessments across the selected EU countries. The majority of the assessed buildings with 84% were residential, while the remaining were non-residential. In terms of performance distribution, most buildings fall into the mid to the lower SRI classes, with the highest concentrations in classes D, E, F, and G. Only a small number of buildings reach the top classes A, B, and C, highlighting significant potentials for improvement in smart readiness across the EU building stock. Shifting to the highlights of SRI across Europe, the 10 selected EU countries were grouped into 5 regional clusters based on the EU Excel tool, which classifies countries by climate zones. Starting from Germany and France, this chart presents the average distribution of SRI classes. The majority of buildings fall within classes D, E, and F, with class E showing the highest average at 29%. Only a small fraction of buildings reached classes A or B, indicating that while some smart features are present, there remains considerable room for improvement in overall smart readiness. In addition, the average SRI class distribution across Southern Europe, including Italy, Spain, Greece, and Cyprus, most buildings are concentrated in classes E, F, and G, with class F having the highest average at 28%. Class A and B remain very limited, indicating that while some progress has been made, the overall smart readiness level in this region is still developing and has substantial potential for improvement. This figure displays the average distribution of SRI classes in Southern Europe, especially for Croatia. The data shows no buildings reached classes A and B, with only minimal number were in class C. Most buildings fall within classes E, F, and G, with class F having the highest average at 32%. These results highlight a relatively low level of smart readiness across the assessed building stock in this region. This matrix shows a detailed breakdown of the smart readiness services implemented in the assessed buildings in Croatia. Most domains are at basic functionality, with cooling achieving the highest level at functionality level 2. Heating, electricity, monitoring, control show some implementation at functionality level 1, but also several functionality level 0 entries. Overall, the buildings have a modest level of smart readiness integration, with scattered improvement but limited advanced control. Moving on to the average SRI class distribution in Northeast Europe, especially for Poland and Lithuania, the majority of buildings are concentrated in classes D, E, and F, with class E having the highest average at 34%. Higher performing classes A and B remain limited, with averages below 3%. These results suggest moderate level of smart readiness, with room for improvement in advanced smart functionalities across the region. To conclude the regional breakdown, this slide presents the average SRI class distribution for Northern Europe, focusing on Denmark. The majority of buildings fall within classes D, E, and F, with class E showing the highest average at 31%. Notably, Denmark shows relatively higher representation in classes A and B compared to the other regions, indicating a stronger presence of smart ready features. These results suggest that Northern Europe and Denmark in particular is further along in the adoption of smart building technologies. This matrix demonstrates a detailed breakdown. High performance is seen in ventilation, cooling, PV systems, heating and cooling. Heating and domestic hot water show mostly basic functionality levels, while lighting and dynamic envelope remain at functionality level 0, indicating minimal smart features. Shifting back to the core messages for SRI testing stage, revealed a wide range of smart readiness levels across the building stock. Notably, 50% of the assessed buildings fall into the lowest SRI class, indicating limited integration of smart technologies. A major finding is the consistently low performance in the third SRI pillar, energy flexibility, pointing to a lack of infrastructure for demand, energy storage, and grid integration. In addition, it was observed that residential buildings generally score lower, while commercial buildings perform better due to the use of more advanced building management systems. Looking closer at the functionality levels, heating, cooling, and electricity domains often reach functionality 2 and 3, featuring room-level controls and energy monitoring. On the other hand, dynamic envelope control, EV charging, and monitoring control are absent. In fact, the EV charging domain showed a negative average score, highlighting how uncontrolled charging can negatively affect grid flexibility. These insights help us understand where smart readiness is currently strongest and where the most urgent upgrades are needed. In conclusion, our main goals for the future are for the SRI assessments to be conducted after adapting the smart service catalog to Cyprus context. Some services like smart grid integration are not yet applicable and may unfairly decreasing the final SRI score, and adapting the SRI will support improved renovation, planning, and more efficient, effective energy policy decisions in Cyprus and across Europe. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation. You kept the time, you had an overview of your work, and I would like now to give the floor to the members of the committee, Professor Menicou and Professor Kalnis, as well as our remoters, to Professor Giama and Professor Rokas. Let's start with our guests. Let's start with Freiderikou. Can you hear us?
Congratulations, first of all. You can relax now, Nicholas. Your presentation was excellent. Congratulations also to the supervisor, my friend, Professor Fokaides. I know your work. It was well prepared, properly presented. The thesis presents a significant and actually an original contribution to the field of the energy and performance of buildings. Nicholas has demonstrated a strong understanding of the issue, the needs, the methodology, the state of the art. Your findings and results are strongly connected with the methodology. The end of this work is not only from the academic perspective. You have a tool that can actually is implemented. And I don't know, till now it is in an educational research base. This is also a question of mine. If it is in a commercial also version. It is an excellent work. I don't have something negative to mention. So on a discussion base, I would like to ask if it is. I know that it is for now free and an educational research version. Do you have any thoughts to proceed to a commercial product of the tool?
Thank you so much for your comments. The tool was developed under a Smart Square project, and until the project finishes, it will be open source. But of course, we are thinking about how we can use also the tool after the project finishes.
Okay. I also want to ask you, how difficult do you believe is to incorporate SRI to the energy certifications right now?
Yes, it's a great question. For now, one threat is the lack of standardization. So, and there is also some initiatives from other life projects like Smart Electricity, where they're trying to see how they can combine into a combined, let's say, APC certificate, and they are trying to examine how it will work. And if it is possible to, let's say, for the next years, if it can be adopted into the energy performance certificate.
Okay. And the final question actually deals with the weighting factors, which is always an issue in the methodologies. Most of the tools and methodologies have weighting factors. How do you believe actually influence the final results, and in which way can we actually select and define these weighting factors more precise?
Yes, SRI will most probably become mandatory in order to support, let's say, energy savings in building sector. In that case, I think we'll need to define some minimum requirements for SRI, let's say for new or existing buildings, in the similar manner that the requirements are set out for the energy performance of buildings. And of course, if I can demonstrate, we have an option on the tool. If, let's say, for Cyprus, for monitoring control or EV, we can choose it, and does not affect into the final SRI score. I mean, yeah, it's an issue always with the determination of the weighting factors by climate zone or by country.
But yes, we will see, and definitely when the whole procedure is standardized, there will be guidelines also for the selection of weighting factors per country. So thank you very much. Congratulations again to both of you. I don't have something else to add.
Okay, thank you very much, Frini. I think we can move on to Rokas. Rokas, are you there with us?
Yes, I'm here. So first of all, congratulations to supervisor and to Nicholas. The dissertation is very high quality and very informative presentation. You answered to many of my questions during the presentations. So it's, how to say, a very good example for maybe for other students how to make PhD presentations. There is no doubt that the topic is very new and highly relevant. You showed one slide that the most similar articles on this subject are not more than 5 years old, and I found only some small shortage in your thesis, and it's not, how to say, not very important for a final result. I would like to continue with my questions, which you have got in my review. So the first question is for the SRI integration in Cyprus. You selected 20 buildings. Could you clarify why this number was chosen and why 10 of these were residential? Additionally, why were only buildings over 15 years old included in the study, and what was the reason for excluding the newer buildings?
Yes, thank you for your question. The SRI test phase in Cyprus is led by the Ministry of Energy and Commerce and Industry. The technical work it was undertaken by Frederick University, Tech, SITE, and Cyprus Energy Agency, all participating in EU Life projects. So the initial selection of the 20 buildings was based on a similar contract that we had with the Ministry of Energy. So we had some already existing buildings with information, but some data was available for that buildings, and for SRI it was we needed a more data in depth of the smartness of the building. So while data was available for some buildings, additional cases were included, as I showed with the 500 buildings, just to validate the initial results. And of course, we say that the results was similar.
Okay, thank you for the answer. And the second question is quite simple. In general, what recommendations would you make to improve the SRI in order to enhance its adoption and popularity across the European Union?
Yes, it's a great question. I mean, we're at the testing phases, so I believe that there are areas for improvement. In its current form, the SRI appears too ambitious, highlighting the need for each member to adapt their catalog, set some minimum requirements into the national context.
Okay, thank you, Nicholas, and good luck in future researches. Please don't stop with this PhD thesis.
Thank you so much.
Okay, now we should go to the internal members. Michalis, let's start with Gregoris, who's from another department.
Okay, thank you, Michalis. Well done, congratulations, Nicholas.
Thank you so much.
Your supervisor, Paris, a very clear presented thesis, a very well structured presented thesis in printed word. I saw that you have a lot of already publications to your CV. It's a very interesting research topic, a very new one, but it is approached with very well structured and care from your side. As an architect, I have many questions about as we're teaching architectures, the main things what we are teaching is that we first designed, having in mind the passive design strategies that will help in ventilation, in lighting, reducing energy, heating, cooling, etc. And then we're going to the external envelope and all the, things that we can reduce energy. And again, yes, to the smartness and the intelligence of the building in that way. Can you elaborate in what sense does this kind of parameters could relate or change the parameters of the SRI used? I mean, about the lighting, about ventilation, cooling.
Yes.
If it's something, I mean, I saw that the case studies that you have also a passive house. I'm not sure
Yes.
if it's already built.
Yes.
It's also.
If may
Yes.
navigate into the tool. I have the existing, if I may share the screen for.
Yeah, but I said. I mean, it's also beyond the type of the building, beyond the age of the building. It's also the orientation, the design, the layout of the building that also relates and changes things regarding the demand on energy for several things. So, is it something that is also considered in your case studies?
SRI, it's for the smartness of the building, and it examines all the smart, let's say, sensors or integrations into the building. But of course, I was looking for we saw an apartment that was passive and a dwelling of a single family, and we saw that the class it was at the lowest at G in the one case, and in the other case it was for 21% of total SRI score. So it depends on the smartness of the building, and not on the. It does not examine the orientation and
So that doesn't have to. It doesn't relate direct to that
no.
parameters. Okay, thank you very well.
Thank you.
Again. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Very good piece of work, and especially the publication record shows that indicates that it's a well recognized work across the relevant scientific community. I have a couple of questions rather on personal interest than on scientific context. First of all, I understand that this tool was developed within the context of a European project, right? So primarily was the aim of these applications was to validate the tool, wasn't it, rather than compare the performance of buildings across various regions within Europe. Am I correct?
No, it was the tool had also to test also the tool, then examine and of course if the tool works correct after performing the beta and alpha testing, then to use it and investigate the SRI across Europe and then across EU.
Okay, so it was so one of the aims of the project was to compare the performance of meetings across various geographical regions within Europe, right? And what was your findings? You showed individual performance in individual regions. Is there any figure showing cross comparisons across regions?
At the last slide, I think I showed for Denmark, where we saw.
So, for example, buildings in Northern Europe they have better score than buildings in Southern Europe, or
because
or more or less are all in the middle.
Yes, if I move on to the presentation again, because I cannot remember the numbers. For Northeast Europe, especially for Poland and Lithuania, we observed that the Kalnis was on E, F, and D. For Denmark, especially, it was relatively higher representation in classes A, B, and C.
Okay, so that means that in Denmark the buildings are more energy efficient.
Yes, and as I mentioned before, at this stage, the SRI is too ambitious for also in those regions that are in general more advanced, let's say, in buildings.
Also, I have another question. You know, the population of Europe is only 5% as regards to the global population of the globe. Yeah. Do we have any information regarding other regions of the world developing similar tools?
I think this is the first tool for examining such as information for those for a huge number of buildings. So I didn't find any other tools to validate the results from the call center, but the existing method was validated with the beta and alpha testing.
And one last question, just from personal interest only. In your future work section, would you consider any business model to adopt in order to facilitate mass adoption of this tool?
I think this question addresses to Barry. So, yeah.
As you know, we have a spin-off which started 3 years ago. We have many members of the group being members of the spin-off as well. And for sure, a spin-off has some visions for the market.
Okay, so well, consensus to go to the next step, which is commercialization. That's it. Excellent work from me. Well done.
Thank you so much.
Now we can conclude. I would propose for the last picture together with Nicholas. Nicholas, have your first slide.
Yes.
Well, we take a picture all together. That's possible.
From the team, Nicola. Congratulations.
I start.
Hello. Oh, really?
Yeah,
Έβγαλε καλύτερη φωτογράφο.
Αν κάποιος καλό κινητό για φωτογραφίες να μου το δώσει.
Ένα δευτερόλεπτο, περιμένε. Και ο προτεκτόρ μες στα μάτια σου και τη φλόρ της σβήσω. Όχι, περίμενε, θα φαίνεται το δούλο μετά.
Να μας πει ο...
Βέβαια, καλές, εσείς ο μαστροφέρος φωτογραφίες.
Συγχαρητήρια, Νικόλα.
Συγχαρητήρια, Νικόλα.
Βλέπουμε που δεν είμαστε εκεί, να ξέρετε.
Αλλά εγώ να το ξέρω είναι πολύ καλό. Εξίσου και καθιστώ και είπα να μην μπορεί να είναι παρεξήγηση. Δηλαδή, υπάρχει σε οποιαδήποτε άλλη περίπτωση, θα πρέπει να μην ξέρω να το κάνω. Αλλά δεν ήθελα να ξέρεις να κάνω. Φέρετε πώς σας επηρεάζει και εσένα, αλλά κάτσε.